Hello everyone, this is Miguel Osterga. Welcome back. So we're starting a new subject today called writing techniques. Before we get into our first lesson, I want to ask you all a question and give you some time to write your answer in the forum. So here's our question. What makes writing good? You can write your answer in the comments below. We'll look at some of your answers after our first lesson. Let's begin with an example. This is a story I wrote for my daughter when she was younger. It's about a kitten who has no tail. Early reader books are books that are written specifically for young learners who are just beginning to read. Here's a story from the book. It goes like this. Captain Inky loved swimming. He would swim all day long. He liked to swim in the ocean. He liked to swim in the lake, even liked to swim in the bathtub. One day, Captain Inky went for a swim. He swam and he swam. These are all things that make writing for kids more fun, more memorable, and more enjoyable. Similes are a really easy way to create imagery for your readers. Someone said, good writing is when someone uses their imagination to create a story. Oh, that's great. Someone said, using your imagination to create a story. Yes, that's absolutely true. I tried to read as many as I could, but I may have missed some. Using your imagination is definitely a good place to start when you're writing a story. Another person said, good writing is when you use show, not tell. Aha, another great answer. I like that. Show, not tell. Yes. We'll spend a whole lesson on that later. I see someone said, good writing is when you use show, not tell. Yep, show, not tell. That's a wonderful way to add details to your stories, and you're absolutely right. And someone else said, good writing is when you use show, not tell. Yes, show, not tell. That's a wonderful way to add details to your stories, and you're absolutely right. And someone else said, good writing is descriptive and has lots of detail. That's a great answer too. If you want your readers to feel like they are inside your story, you've got to give them lots of details to work with. Your plot needs to keep your readers guessing what's going to happen next. And your characters need to feel real. If your readers can connect with your characters, then they're going to care what happens to them. Now, these are some of the things that make writing good, especially when you're writing for young readers. Of course, there's lots of other things we could talk about, but we're going to save those things for future lessons. He swam all around the world. He saw a whale. The whale was big. The whale was gray. Captain Inky was not afraid. He swam after the whale. The whale was friendly. It wanted to play. The whale and Captain Inky played all afternoon. They played hide and seek and they played tag. Then the sun went down. It was time to go home. Captain Inky was tired. He took a deep breath and he went to sleep. And these books typically have two characteristics: simple language and repetition. Simple language means that the author uses basic vocabulary and sentence structure. They avoid using big, fancy words, and they focus on using common words that young readers will be familiar with. Repetition is also a key characteristic of early reader books. Authors repeat words, phrases, and even entire sentences to help young readers who are still learning to decode written language. This repetition helps readers to predict what's going to happen next, and it makes the story easier to follow. Now, the story starts like this. Once upon a time, there was a little kitten who had no tail. He was just a tiny ball of fluff with a little stump where his tail should have been. Like when I say he swam and he swam, you could pause for a moment before saying he swam all around the world. When you read this story aloud, you could emphasize certain words by using a different intonation or by pausing for a bit before saying that word. Like when I say he swam and he swam, you could pause for a moment before saying he swam all around the world. You can see that every single line ends with the word ing as well. That's intentional on my part. Kids love alliteration. Alliteration is when you start two or more words with the same sound. In this case, it's the H sound. When we read aloud, we can emphasize the alliteration, and that adds to the fun. We've got he swam, and he swam, and he swam all around the world, and then we've got the whale was big, the whale was gray, and then we've got he took a deep breath, and he went to sleep. The other cats in his family all had long tails. They would flick their tails back and forth as they walked, but he couldn't do that because he had no tail. Now this made him very sad, so he decided to go on an adventure to find a new tail. Okay, let's pause for a second and think about the question again. What makes writing good? Can you think of any reasons? What do you think is important when you are reading a story? There are lots of different things to consider, of course. But if I asked you what stands out to you in this story, what do you remember? What's important? What do you think? What stands out to you? Hopefully most of you said the fact that it was very repetitive. That's right. Repetitions make writing more memorable and easier to read, especially for kids. As writers, we know that not all kids have the same reading level. So if we are going to write something for kids, it's always better to oversimplify our language. Oversimplification might sound bad, but if you're writing for young readers, it's actually a great thing. When we use simple language and repetition, our stories become more accessible to emergent readers. Emergent readers are those who are learning to read. They might be just beginning to read, or they might be somewhere in the early stages of learning how to decode written language. But they need extra support when reading. So if we write our stories in a way that uses simple language and repetition, then more children can enjoy our stories. Now it's also worth noting that these are the two characteristics of what we call early reader books. Here's another example from my book, The Adventures of Captain Inky. When you read this story aloud, you could emphasize certain words by using a different intonation or by pausing for a bit before saying that word. I didn't think I was doing any of this stuff intentionally when I wrote this book, but when I look back on it now, I can see that I did. Lesson 2 is all about similes, and similes are one of my favorite ways to bring your stories to life. And now it's time to take a look at some of your comments and see what you had to say about what makes writing good. And finally, someone said, "You engage the reader with a great plot and interesting characters." That's a wonderful answer. Well, those are all of our answers. Let me know in the comments below if I missed your comment.